Welcome to Rock Solid Productions, where in this video, unfortunately, we're going to talk about the hot mess that is Star Wars The Last Jedi. Hey everyone, Gary here with Rock Solid Productions, and welcome to the first movie review here on the channel. Huge Star Wars nerd, as you can see just by the stuff here on the desk. And if you saw recently, there were 5 things that I was looking for from The Last Jedi, and really none of them happened. So what I figured is the first part of this, spoiler free, don't worry about watching it. Going to give you some insight as far as just at a high level, going to try to not really give anything away. I know one of the complaints early on, and my opinion too, was I didn't dislike The Force Awakens. I just liked it a whole lot more the first time that I saw it when it was Episode 4, A New Hope. And the concern was that The Last Jedi could possibly be just a retelling of Empire Strikes Back. It is not that. But I will say it definitely has undertones of both Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi in this movie, and I dare say even a little bit of Revenge of the Sith. Luke, early on we find out that he is a reluctant teacher, that he has gone to Ach-To not to do research, but essentially to hide. You know, he had felt that he had let the galaxy down essentially with Ben Solo, Kylo Ren, and basically sent himself into isolation. Not completely unlike Master Yoda did in Revenge of the Sith, and as we find and learn about him in Empire Strikes Back. But he does kind of remove himself from the situation because he feels the galaxy is better off without him, because he's just Luke Skywalker, a man, and the legend is a lot more powerful than the man itself. In a lot of ways, the Force is now the Matrix, where it is constantly in efforts and trying to balance itself out. If you have watched Star Wars The Clone Wars animated series at all, there was the 3-part episode twist or arc where Obi-Wan, Anakin, and Ahsoka go to the planet basically of the Force with the father, the son, and the daughter. The father represents, you know, the balance between the two of them. The daughter represents the light. The son represents the dark. The Force is always in flux, to the point of it's always trying to balance itself out. In some ways, it explains the rise of the Sith in the prequel trilogy, episodes 1 through 3, that the Sith had to rise because the Jedi had basically become such a light force that the darkness needed to come to provide that sense of balance. I feel in many ways like The Last Jedi is a movie that George Lucas directed, and that's not a compliment. The movie is very fat. It could have been trimmed down in a lot of different ways. There are scenes and, quite honestly, entire characters who could have been cut out of the movie, and it would not have hurt the story at all. I think that in a lot of ways, Star Wars is taking up the mantle that Star Trek had had for years, where originally Star Wars was fantasy or science fantasy in the vein of Flash Gordon and of Token. It has now become much more of a social piece, making commentary on current day goings-on. Look at the prequels. Lot Dodd, Lucas himself has come out and say that was a shot at Trent Lott. There are definite political undertones here that really, they don't advance the story versus they advance an agenda, and it sticks out like a sore thumb. The movie itself is gorgeous. The special effects are outstanding. There's one specific ship-to-ship battle that it's like, wow, that was flipping awesome. On the flip side, the soundtrack was nothing to write home about. In The Force Awakens, we got the gorgeous Rey theme, and it's from the flute and everything and the melody, and it carries on, and it is reused here in The Last Jedi. But there is no new piece of music that comes out of this that you leave the theater and it's memorable. Quite honestly, the prequels were like that, though, too, because you had Duel of the Fates, which was, I would say, John Williams' best piece of music up until, and actually I do like it more than Rey's theme, but probably up until Rey's theme, it was the best piece that I had heard him conduct. But you really didn't have anything much in Attack of the Clones, in Revenge of the Sith. Nothing musically, really, that stood out there. This movie did not need to be a Star Wars movie. You could have made this a generic science fiction film and been okay. And put in throwaway characters and develop some backstory in the story. But this did not need to be a Star Wars story. And that's one of the sad things that I look at it as, you know, the Skywalker family importance. Yes, Ben is a Skywalker. Well, actually, he's a Solo, not a Skywalker. But the importance of the Skywalker family definitely is being, you know, the Skywalkers aren't as important anymore, and they're trying to kind of brush them off into the past. I will say I actually enjoyed Rogue One a whole lot more. One of the things I've seen is people are, you know, they're dumping on The Force Awakens because it didn't take enough risks. They're dumping on The Last Jedi because it took too many risks. I don't think the quantity of risks makes the difference as far as good or bad. It's the quality of the risk. Rogue One took a lot of risks, getting us emotionally invested and interested in characters that as you're watching it for the first time, you're thinking they don't have the balls to kill off all of these characters, do they? They killed them all off. Every last one of them. The captain from K2SO to Chirrut Îmwe they all died. And it was a gutsy move, and they did it. And hats off to Lucasfilm for doing that, and to Gareth Edwards for doing that in Rogue One. This, I think that they had their sandbox, they're staying within, and where they tried to take risks fell flat, at least to me. You won't get most of the questions that you want answered from The Force Awakens. There's no backstory on Snoke. He's just a guy. He's Force sensitive. That's all you find out about Snoke. You don't find out specifically who Rey's parents are. And it's okay, but I mean, at least seeing them, very similar to, I don't feel like we really got to see Harry Potter's parents in that series. Yes, we know it was Lily and James Potter, and in the books you got more backstory, but in the movies you got a couple shots of them here and there, and that was pretty much it. You didn't even get that in this movie. So that was a little disappointing there. Where did the First Order really rise from? Yes, it rose from the ashes of the Empire, and there are books like Aftermath that have kind of outlined that, but you really don't have an answer. You know, if you watched episodes 1 through 6, it's a complete story arc, and you are left at the end of episode 6 thinking, holy crap, this little ragtag bunch of rebels actually brought down the Empire. You see people celebrating on Coruscant, and unfortunately, you see the Gungans on Naboo. You see all over the galaxy, people are celebrating the downfall of the Emperor. Well, in Battlefront 2, we find out about Operation Cinder, which, you know, that actually goes back to the expanded universe and everything. But where did things go wrong so fast when it seemed like the Rebels and the Republic were back in power? You don't get an answer to any of that. Overall, I left the theater and I turned to my girlfriend, and basically my response was it was unsatisfying. And her feeling was, and she's not nearly as big of a nerd, fan as I am, but that it was trying to be cheeky for the sake of being cheeky, and the cheekiness just fell flat. So those are just from a highbrow, or not highbrow, but high level overview. No spoilers, no specifics really on, you know, my overview of The Last Jedi. Go see it. You'll enjoy it. It's not... George Lucas didn't rob my childhood, damn it. Disney didn't rob my childhood. This is a... They've said it before that these movies are the first movies being made by people who grew up watching Star Wars as fans. And they are very high-budget fan movies. Say what you will, episodes 1 through 6, high budget. After episode 4, it was an independent film. George Lucas called all the shots after episode 4. For better or for worse, and he made what he wanted to make. Now that Lucasfilm is under the Mouse House, and I'm a huge Disney fan, case on my phone is Mickey Mouse. It just seems like not the compass is missing, but the heart is missing a little bit. The drive isn't there anymore. I look at it as to what happened to Star Trek after Gene Roddenberry died. I thought Ira Steven Behr did an amazing job. Brandon Braga, a little bit less so. Rick Berman, even less so. You know, what they're doing now with the JJ Trek and with Star Trek Discovery, I don't watch it because it's not going in a direction that entertains me. Star Trek The Last Jedi had entertaining parts of it, but it will never top the original trilogy, and in some ways will not top aspects of the prequels for me. So that is my non-spoiler review or overview of Star Wars The Last Jedi. If you have any questions, if you want to discuss this at all, please feel free to leave a comment down below. You can also go ahead and send me an email at rocksolidmail@gmail.com, or you can also send me a tweet on Twitter at RockSolidStudios. And we can even discuss this over on our Facebook page, facebook.com/RockSolidProductions. If you like what we do here, want to help support the show, you can even do that on Patreon. Thank you, Patreon, for reversing course on your fee structure changes and whatnot that you were going to do. For as little as $1 a month, you can support Rock Solid Productions. Just go to patreon.com/RockSolid, like this guy right here, and we'll give you shout-outs here in videos, help you choose topics that we're going to cover and discuss, and a whole lot more. So, Star Wars The Last Jedi, it was fine. That's the best I can say about it. It was fine. Thanks for watching. I'll see you soon.